All right, welcome into Coolbet Canada's NHL Future Frenzy with myself, Jake Bolin Moss. We're here alongside Kris Abbott and Andrew Paterson Hustler for our big Futures NHL show. And I think we'll get right into this stuff. Boys, we got a ton of picks to give out for the NHL season starting tomorrow. We got two big games, Tampa and Pittsburgh, the former Stanley Cup champs. And then we have the new franchises, the Golden Knights and the Kraken. So I think I want to start off. Kris, we'll go to you. We'll get your award winner over at Coolbet. There are a ton of odds for winners, awards, teams, player props, a ton of different bets. Kris, let's get your first pick.
Yeah, there's a ton. And I actually you talk about the teams that are going to play on opening night, Seattle and Vegas. Well, I just got back from Vegas, and I was at a couple of exhibition games. One of them was against the Colorado Avalanche, and I was looking through the Calder odds, and I was a little bit surprised to see that Bowen Byram is still qualifying as a rookie this year. And I looked at the other guys above him on the list, and they're not going to be in the top six on most of the teams they're playing in. This guy's going to play top 4 minutes every night. He's probably going to play on the power play for the Avalanche, who will be a contender. So Bowen Byram, 18-1 for the Calder Trophy is my individual award pick for the Futures Frenzy.
All right. And I think we have a couple Norris picks between me and Hustler. Hustler, I'll give you the floor. I'll let you give your Norris pick, and then I can fight you for my pick after that.
Excellent. Well, you know, it's interesting. I mean, the Norris Trophy, listen, I think Cale Makar certainly is the favorite and probably should be the favorite. He's at 3-1. The Avalanche are getting a ton of preseason love, and justifiably so. They are the Stanley Cup favorite. And I think Makar is going to be on everyone's radar, both in the regular season as well as starring for Canada at the Olympics. But going down, I'm trying to find a little bit of value on this list. And, you know, it was interesting, Kris, just being in Vegas, that you were speaking about the Golden Knights, because it wasn't lost upon anyone that Alex Pietrangelo was the first player selected from the defense side of things for Team Canada. And I wouldn't at all be surprised if that top defense pairing is, in fact, Pietrangelo playing with Shea Theodore. I like Theodore at 19-1 for some real great value. I think that is going to be a defense pairing that, both with the extended maybe spotlight they'll be getting at the Olympics, not that it counts for what's happening in the regular season, will certainly be getting some of the run and the attention. But here's the thing. Theodore is such a big part of the Vegas power play and has so many more opportunities to get on the score sheet. No one watches these players and these teams 82 games a year. So the point production is really important. I think Vegas will be a top team. They certainly should probably run away with that Pacific Division, barring a big run and a strong season by the Edmonton Oilers. So I think there's some great value with Shea Theodore to win the Norris Trophy at 19-1 for the upcoming season.
Hustler, I just want to say that I admire your moxie by still running out that Patrick Mahomes jersey today after what happened last night.
Hey, you know what? I almost wore my NFL, my Rob Lowe fan of the league hat today because, it was unlikely that we'd get through any sort of content today without getting a shot from the Chiefs. Hey, better to shit the bed in week 5, guys, than later on in the playoffs. So don't put any dirt on the Chiefs just yet, but we digress.
Absolutely. I just wanted to get that in there.
Yeah, that's great. And before I get into my Norris pick, I just want to let everyone know we're running a little promo. If you subscribe to our YouTube and share this link either through retweet or sharing the YouTube link, we're giving out $75 Coolbet credit on the site. So subscribe to the YouTube, retweet the link, and we're going to pick that winner tomorrow. For my pick, I'm going Charlie McAvoy, Norris Trophy. Right now, McAvoy going at 14-1. And I think this is the year McAvoy becomes the guy in Boston. I think last year was a step in the right direction, but I think this is the year where he becomes that horse on the back end. He was a top 20 guy in ice time a season ago, 24 minutes. And those top minute guys are the ones that tend to win the Norris. Adam Fox won it last year, Hedman in the past, the Drew Doughties of the world. These guys play a ton of minutes, and the more they play, the better they play, the better their chances are. I think we can see a big uptick in points from a guy like McAvoy. 30 last year in 51 games, which is pretty all right, I'd say, for a defenseman. A guy who wants to win the Norris, on the other hand, he might need a little bit of an uptick. But you got to remember, he's on that top power play. And Boston may not be the deepest team in the league, but that top power play can go up against anyone any night of the week. Marchand, Bergeron, Pasternak, Hall, and McAvoy in the back end. I like McAvoy. I think he can have a big year for Boston, and I think he'll be in the running all season long for that Norris Trophy.
Yeah, I think that's where the value is right now. Just speaking of the Norris odds right now, I mean, McCarr at 3, Hedman at 5, Adam Fox at 7, Ed Black 10, Carlson 13. I mean, to me, the value really starts at that McAvoy pick and really gets all the way back up to about Roman Josi. Josi at 23-1 is sort of an intriguing number in that, you know that he's one of the top defensemen in the league. And I think now with Ellis being gone, there's going to be so much on the shoulders of Josi. If Nashville can have a good season and make the playoffs, he probably will be a guy that you'll get some recognition for that. But I think the young guns, and you talked about it, McAvoy at 14. I like Shea Theodore, Miro Heiskanen at 20. That to me where the value is on the board right now for the Norris trophies, because it's pretty short numbers on the guys that are justifiably the big favorites.
I'm a Heiskanen guy, and Hustler comes in with as our Central Division insider, so I respect the Dallas and Nashville plays there.
Yeah, a ton of awesome odds over at Coolbet for all the awards: Vezina, Norris, Calder, Art Ross, Rocket Richard, Hart. Am I missing any of them? I got a ton of them there. I said Vezina. That was the first one I said.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, that's all right.
Pick.
The Winnipeg fans are still looking for more Vezina. That's all.
I think we do have another award winner, and I think Hustler was just about to get into it there. He's got a pick for his Vezina as well. What do you got for us, Hustler?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to throw Hellebuck in there, and yeah, a little bit of a homer pick, but it's interesting. If you look at the odds, I mean, Vasilevsky, the clear-cut favorite at 3.5-1, and then you've got Robin Lehner and Connor Hellebuck at 7-1. The Lehner's on a real solid squad. He's going to be playing a ton this year. But whether it be injury up and down, I don't like the value of Lehner at 7-1. I do like it though for Hellebuck. Hellebuck's in a situation, we'll get to a little bit more Jets talk later on with a couple of the other picks, that he has been carrying this team on his back for the last couple seasons. The Jets can score, but defensively they have been, I mean, that's been their Achilles heel over the last couple seasons. And with the offseason the Jets had and Kevin Cheveldayoff acquiring both Brendan Dillon and Nate Schmidt, expectations are that top 4 is going to be far, far more effective, most importantly in their own end and in front of Connor Hellebuck and getting that puck out. So I think it's going to give Hellebuck the opportunity. He might not have to be relied on as much and maybe not see as many high danger scoring chances, but I think that helps him, his numbers overall, and certainly the play to the hockey team. I know Dom Lucian over the Athletic, does some wonderful work when it comes to, predictions, props and whatnot. He's very high on Hellebuck and what the offseason means for him. So for a guy that has already won the Vezina, more so because of just how bad the defense was around him, the fact that the Jets have made such big improvements in their own end, should win their fair share of games. I like Hellebuck to win another Vezina trophy this year. And I think 7-1, a pretty good number considering really, to me, it's he and Andrei Vasilevsky that enter this season as the top 2 goalies in the league and the top 2 ones that should be at the top of the odds.
All right, so we got some award winners there, including a couple Norris, a Vezina, and a Calder. Kris, I'm going to come back to you. I mentioned McAvoy on that top Boston power play. I think you have a guy on the top Boston power play that you like for a points total this year.
Yeah, I mean, take the goal total or the points total for David Pasternak for me. 38.5 for goals. They've got him at 84.5 for points right now. Much of the same things that you said, Jake. I mean, this Boston team is going to have a chance, most likely, to run it up on Detroit, to run it up on Ottawa some nights. Frankly, to run it up on the Leafs because they always do. It's going to be a tough division. It's going to be a tough division for sure. And, David Pasternak's going to get his chances. If he stays healthy, that line, like they do every year, will get their chance to dominate. And I feel that, especially here in Canada, we forgot about the Bruins a little bit because they weren't playing in the division last year. That they're called the perfection line for a reason. When Pasternak's healthy, he's as lethal as anybody else. And I think just when you look at his goal total at 38.5, Austin Matthews was at 56, 54, something like that. And to me, they're on par as elite goal scorers in the league. And frankly, Pasternak gets probably some more chances. I don't have the analytics on there, but he's playing on a line where he's the trigger man, and I think he's going to get the job done both for goals and for points this season. And I'm always a big David Pastrnak fan.
Yeah, I think I even saw Marchand there, 86.5 points or something like that. When I saw that number, my eyes lit up. I thought, wow, like that's a good number for a guy who's pretty underrated when it comes to scoring points, and he's pretty consistent. He's always in the mix, top 10, top 15 in points. So for a league that's seen a ton of uptick in scoring, I like Marchand too. 86.5, I think his number is right now.
Something I look at for those guys as well is that they're also on the ice at the end of the game. Brad Marchand will get you your empty net goal. Pastrnak, Bergeron, they'll be out there near the end of the game. And, I look for a guy like when we're talking to that team, Nick Foligno, to fill that Nick Ritchie role that is left open, not a trade, but free agent signings, for Foligno. So I think I always like this Boston team. I never like to bet against them. And those guys always seem to be the ones to get it done for them.
Yeah, and Huss, I think before we go to you, I'll squeeze in my goal scoring pick, and I'm actually going under on a goal total for a Pittsburgh Penguins player that I saw on the list that I'm not too sold on just yet. Brian Rust, his goal total set at 28.5, coming off a pretty good year, I'd say, a shortened season. I think he had 27 goals last year. I just not bought into the Brian Rust is an elite goal scorer in the NHL. I think a lot of that has to do with the Crosby factor, playing on a line with Sid, and sometimes getting those power play minutes with the guys like Malkin and Sid. You do tend to score maybe 20, 25 goals. I think we're going to see that drop back a little this year. Gunsel should be ready to go in a little bit here. I think he's just on the COVID list, so a couple negative tests. He'll be back. Crosby's going to miss a few games, and then they're saying Malkin maybe a couple to a few weeks. So I think once you start to get those big guys back, Brian Rust time on ice comes back. Maybe his power play time comes back a little. I'm just not quite sold on that 28.5. So I'm taking the under on that number. And Huss, what do you have for a player prop on the board here?
I've actually got a couple, and I'll start with my over. It's Andrei Svechnikov of the Carolina Hurricanes to go over 24.5 goals. Svechnikov's in an interesting situation. He does have one season a couple years ago where he got to 24 in not the full 82 games. Last year would have been, I think he was 15 and 55. He was on a pace to be right in and around this area. But coming off the long-term contract extension, the fact that, and we'll get to the Canes' overall team chances in a minute, which I know a couple of us like. I think that they're going to be a team that's going to push for their division win, and a big part of that is going to be on their top line, which is Sebastian Aho, which is Teuvo Teravainen, and is Svechnikov as the trigger man. So, on a solid team, playing with great players, first-line minutes, first-line power play, I love the over for Svechnikov to get to a 25-goal season. I wouldn't at all be surprised if he hits 30 this year, and I think shows that, the Canes know what they were doing when it comes to spending the money they needed to do to get this young man inked for 8 more seasons. But on the other side of things, I'm going to take an under on the Matthew Tkachuk's point total. Now, it's interesting. This number is listed at 69.5 right now. The over is minus 133. The under on this is even money. So that number could easily switch, maybe go up before puck drop. But as of right now, to get even money on under 69.5, I think is great value for Matthew Tkachuk. A couple things that are interesting about Tkachuk. Last year was 43 points in 56 games. He did play the entire season, but he had, by all accounts in Calgary, a really up and sometimes more often down season. When Daryl Sutter took over, I think many of us, myself included, thought that this was going to be exactly what Matthew Tkachuk needed. He'd be the emotional leader of this team. They're going to play this Sutter-style hockey. They didn't get that from Tkachuk. And he's now going into the final year of his contract. He needs to be qualified at $9 million a season. So I think there's a lot for him to prove. I just didn't see that work so far last year with, under Daryl Sutter. So to expect Matthew Tkachuk to get to 70, which he has done once in his entire NHL career, I think we're counting on him being healthy. I think we're talking about a much better production than he had last year. And here's the other thing. What's really changed in Calgary up front? Why should we expect better things in Calgary? I mean, the only thing they've done is lose Mark Giordano on the back end. And all due respect to Blake Coleman, who I think is a solid player, and he's going to get a great opportunity in the top 6. I don't think the addition of Blake Coleman cranks up the likelihood that Matthew Tkachuk is going to have a monster offensive season. So considering what the number is, especially the odds at plus 100 for even money on the under, I'm going to bet against Matthew Tkachuk, and I'm taking under 69.5 points at even money for the under of my 2 props.
Alrighty. And before
quickly,
we get...
before we go, I was going to mention, I was all excited because I gave these picks out after Wednesday's game with Nikolai Ehlers tearing it up for the Jets and his old BFF Patrick Laine scoring that goal. Laine was 19.5 on Wednesday and Ehlers was 28.5. Gave those both out, got people fired up. Ehlers is now 31.5 and Laine is now 22.5. So shout out to anyone that got in earlier this week before those numbers went up. Still actually don't mind the overs on both of those, but a little bit tougher to give out with the line movement that we've seen this week.
You're moving the lines, Sessler. You're moving the lines.
Yes. Speaking of lines, I didn't even get a chance to get this one out. Earlier last week, I saw Anders Lee at 40.5 points. I thought that was a great number. Now up to 45. So he's already moved 5 points. I still like it at that number. That was one of my other ones. I won't go too deep into that one, but he's playing on the top line power play. Barzal, Palmieri, Lee. I like him. I think he's a strong player. I think he's a little underrated, and I think he's important for that Islanders team.
Very underrated player.
Yeah, for sure. We're going to get into some Stanley Cup picks. I just want to remind everyone to subscribe to the YouTube and share the link to this YouTube show. Anyone who subscribes and shares the link will be entered for a chance to win a $75 Coolbet credit. All right, let's get into you guys want to do to make the playoffs first, or do you guys want to do your Stanley Cups?
You're driving the bus, buddy. You tell us.
All right, I'll drive the bus. Let's go playoffs first because the playoffs lead into the Stanley Cup. And we'll go to Kris, I guess. Let's hear who you have. I believe you have someone to miss the playoffs. This will be interesting.
Well, no, I don't. Yeah, it's all right. I mean, I
was looking at your points total. Sorry.
I would love to bet the Leafs to miss the playoffs. I would love to do that because I think it's quite a possibility, and the number was pretty good. I think it was 5-1 for them to miss. And I still may bet that, to be completely honest with you. But so here's a couple of bets that I like. 10 to 1 to miss. It's going to be a tough division. They got to come top 3. I don't know. I am going to make that bet just on the Kate. Well, for 2 reasons. One, I love watching this city burn. I have a pretty good vantage point over the downtown, and the flames and smoke will be billowing up from the entertainment district if that were to happen. But no. But I am going to go with the Canadian team to make the playoffs. The Vancouver Canucks at plus 145. Hustler, you already talked about the Flames in that division, who we're not sure that they're that much improved. You've got an expansion team in the Seattle Kraken. You've got a Vegas Golden Knights team that will be good, but they're not as good as they used to be. And you've got a Vancouver Canucks team who I think is going to be vastly underrated, given the fact of what happened to them last year with COVID ravaging the team. They had to play like 28 games in 30 days or whatever the hell they did. It was absolutely insane. Maybe 40. It was something like 28 and 40, though. It was crazy. And yeah, I mean, the fact that they've got a stellar group put together there. They've added Connor Garland. They've added Oliver Ekman-Larsson. Thatcher Demko's well on his way to being, a very, very solid NHL goaltender if he's not that already. And Travis Green is a good coach. I mean, they missed a lot of time last year, a lot of health problems. Now, just today, the news that Brandon Sutter is dealing with the long COVID symptoms, which certainly will hurt the Canucks, but it will also help their cap situation if he's on long-term injured reserve, because they are up against it right now. And of course, there was some question about whether they're going to get Quinn Hughes and Elias Pettersson taken care of. That's all done. So I think the Canucks are going to be a sneaky team that teams or fans and pundits and bettors are undervaluing this year. So that's going to be a team to make the playoffs for me. And I also like the New York Rangers at plus 500 to win the Metro. I don't think they're not the favorite to do it. There's a couple of teams ahead of them there, Carolina and the Islanders. But, with the Rangers, they have a new coaching staff with Gerard Gallant, Mike Kelly, and my boy Jim Midgley, who I know from way back in the Halifax Moosehead days. They've got good young goaltending. They've already got exciting forwards. They've got, Adam Fox anchoring that defense that should, be better with another year under its belt with Keandre Miller back there. Hopefully we get a good season out of Jacob Trouba this year. And I think this Rangers team is going to be trouble for a lot of people on a lot of nights. One thing that holds me back from the Rangers, though, today, and they announced they're going to have 6 alternate captains. Now, what are we just giving out participation trophies right now? Like that one stung me a little bit. I was like, come on, guys, pick a captain, get your 3 or 4 alternates, 6 alternates. I'm in line to get the next one. I think
they were going to pick Panarin, but he said he didn't want it. So this is the next best thing.
Oh man,
it's too much.
Was it Jumbo? Did Jumbo renounce the captaincy one year as well? Yeah. I mean, it's not for everybody. It's a lot of added pressure. I mean, I look at a guy like John Tavares in Toronto who handles it very, very well when he's dealing with the media, but certainly not everyone's cut out for it. But on the ice, I think, for them to be ranked 3rd in the division, it's not like Carolina and the Islanders are teams that are accustomed to success at the top of the division. I think that division's kind of wide open this year. So at plus 500, I'm gonna take the Rangers to take the Metro.
And I think you might even have them to sprinkle Stanley Cup future there on the Rangers as well.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. While we're on the topic, 28-1. I certainly don't think it's a lock by any stretch, but if I can talk myself into them winning the division and getting a high seed, if Igor Shesterkin becomes the goaltender that we expect him to be, maybe it's this year, maybe it's not. But you had a highly touted Russian goaltender coming over, much like Andrei Vasilevsky, years ago. Latvian Vasilevsky is there. He plays for Russia too. And yeah, I mean, it could be his year. And then I'm a big Alexander Georgiev guy. So they've got a good 1-2 punch in the net. They've got Gerard Gallant, who took, into the expansion Vegas Golden Knights all the way to the Stanley Cup final in his first year. So, with the changes that have happened in New York, I don't think 28-1 is a bad number at all.
Yeah, and we're running a little tight on time here, but Huss, I'm going to jump to you. Let's just go right into your Stanley Cup pick because I have something similar, obviously. Let's hear what you have to say about them, and I'll close it out.
Yeah, all right. Well, here, a rapid fire, the picks that we wanted. You were just talking about the Metropolitan. I like the Canes. Listen, if the Rangers are 5.5-1, the Canes should be lower than 5-1, to be honest with you. And I do like the Islanders, and I get it why they are there. Always seem to be there at 3-1. I just think there's great value with Carolina at 5-1. And, listen, it's tough to get past the top few teams, but if you're looking at a team that I think has all the pieces, providing they get the goaltending, and I know lots of people in Toronto saying that's a big asterisk when it comes to the Canes. 5-1, I think is great value for the division, and 19-1 for a cup bet is a nice little long shot as far. But I mean, the one for the season bet, the one that I like the most, and that this is, the team that I know better than anyone else is the Winnipeg Jets. And, whether it's Coolbet, anywhere, the Jets are traditionally a small market team that are always undervalued. And I think we've seen that big time. We've been talking about on the show earlier this summer, even after the additions on the blue line, the Jets were 50-1 to win the cup. That's now gone down to 40. A couple weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago, the Jets were 21-1 to win the Central Division. That's now come down to 13-1. The one thing that hasn't changed is their totals for the season. A total points, 92.5. I love the over on that at -110. And to make the playoffs, I think you were chunking some numbers. The implied probability of the Jets in the playoffs now with their roster is somewhere in and around -160. We're getting the -130 right now. So I really do take it for what it's worth. I'm coming to you from Winnipeg, but I will tell you over and over again, the Jets are a slept-on team. It takes a while for the numbers to kick in. It's already happened with the Cup and the division odds. It hasn't happened with these other two. So -130 to make the playoffs and -110 at over 92.5 points. Love those picks along with the Canes, as I just mentioned, JB.
Yeah, and when you talk about the Canes, I also have them as my Stanley Cup favorite. You guys mentioned Freddie. I think getting out of that Toronto market, out of all that media and the hubbub and what players talk about can be a distraction at sometimes. I think going to Carolina, it's a fresh start for him. We know he was strong in Anaheim. I think he can go down to Carolina and have a great season with the Canes, who are pretty deep. I think people seem to forget how deep the Canes are. Even with the loss of Dougie Hamilton, they're going to test out Tony DeAngelo experiment. We'll see how that goes. But they got Brady Shea, Brett Pesce, guys like Jordan Stahl that play on their third line. This team's deep, top to bottom. I like the acquisition of Freddie. They got Antti Raanta, I think, backing him up right now. Not a bad backup, but I think Freddie will definitely be the 1A guy there. And I just think the Carolina Hurricanes are a little slept on as well, like you said about the Jets. I think they're a little slept on at 19-1. I think that's one of the best value on the board. And I think the culture that Brindamore's brought in there is a top level culture in all of the NHL. So I think they get on a good run. We've seen teams do it in the past, get on a run in the playoffs and take it all the way to the cup. So I'll take the Hurricanes as well. Any other quick picks you guys want to get in before we wrap the show up?
Well, I'll just say quickly on the Canes, I think you nailed it. And a lot of times, you know, these teams that are growing from within that have done a great job of drafting and maintaining their own players, you know, they have to have a couple of, of tough playoffs before they get over the hump. They've been testing themselves against the best in the league, going up against Tampa. I think they know what it's going to take. And to me, that's the team that has the best chance of doing it. And who's not a Rod the Bod guy? I mean, what player would not run through a wall for their head coach? So, listen, they lost to a better team last year, but I think they're close right now. And when you compare the numbers, I think there's some great value on Carolina, both for the division and the cup.
Yeah, no, you're not going to get an argument from me there either, guys. Like, I like the Rangers because I think the numbers are worth betting. But, yeah, I like this Carolina team too. And, I mean, you hear so often about the millionaire NHLers that look at their coach and kind of roll their eyes. But when you know your head coach could go out and do every single thing he's asking you to do and he'd do it in his tracksuit while you have your gear on, then, there's a little bit of respect for that there. One bet. There's two bets I didn't get out. We talked about the top Canadian team, so I put the Canucks there at 8-1. Again, I'm not sure that happens, but I think the number is good as opposed to the Leafs, who are plus 115 to be the best Canadian team. And I wouldn't bet that. And also their points total was at 106.5. It's down to 105.5. You're still telling me they're going to be one of the top 2 or 3 teams in the league. I'm just not buying it. I don't know. And if you got in, I was preaching under on Matthews' goal total earlier the last couple of weeks. Now that's off the board because he's injured. He's going to miss at least the first 3 games of the season. And this team just does not have the depth, guys. And we all know it. And we all know why their numbers inflated because there's still people here in the GTA. They're going to bet over everything with the Leafs. So the book is just going to sit there and take that with a very, very low risk and hope to collect on those losses. But I think the Leafs under 105.5 points is a great bet. You look at that division, Boston's going to be good. Florida's going to be good. Tampa's going to be good. Montreal's going to be okay. Ottawa's going to give them a tough game every night out. So I just think there's way too many points to try and get out of your own division that they're going to really struggle with on many, many nights.
Yeah, I do love that offering at Coolbet where you can bet the top Canadian team via points over the course of the season. I think there's great value with Winnipeg at 8-1, but it's hard to get away from both the Leafs and the Oilers because of the divisions that they're in. And I mean, the 275 plus for Edmonton, considering, some of those California teams they'll be playing against. I'm not sold that the Kraken are going to come in and be a contender right off the bat. So I think that's sort of where the smart money is. And one that I actually didn't put in, but I'll throw out there right now. Calder's really interesting. You got Cole Caulfield and Zegras, who are right up at the top. Spencer Knight in Florida. Marco Rossi in Minnesota. This is a guy that lost last year because of COVID. He's come back. He has looked phenomenal in the preseason through training camp. And they're looking for, last year was Kaprizov, but this is a team that is still outside of him, very much offensively challenged. I think that coming and showing what he's done so far, he's going to get an opportunity to shine as a rookie. So I think there's some value on Marco Rossi at 13-1 for the Calder, Jake.
Well, I also thought that Zegras, when I was talking about Bowen Byram earlier, I was looking around at guys who are going to get a chance. And I love Alex Newhook with Colorado, but he's going to be the third line center, so he's not going to get all those chances. Trevor Zegras, when I look today, he's slotted in as the number one center in Anaheim, but that's like being the tallest Oompa Loompa. It's not the best thing. Like, they're going to be a really, really bad team. So I mean, I think they're going to be a bad team. So I find it hard to lay that money on Trevor Zegras, even though you guys know, biggest Trevor Zegras guy in the world right here. He made me so much money at last year with World Juniors.
We bet him for the Calder last year coming out of the World Juniors with the late season, and then they refused to stick his ass in the lineup. I'm still mad about that.
So listen, I hope he has a great year. He's an awesome player, but I think you got to go a little more long shot on the Calder odds for sure.
And you wonder where the votes will go with something like that, because Zegras, he could have a great year for a bad team, and if his team doesn't succeed, do they look at that? Or he look at a guy
on
like
the West Coast.
A bad team that nobody watches when they're good.
Yeah,
exactly. Like they had
So,
Getzlaf and Peary for years and nobody watched, so
they won a cup. They won a cup back in 06 or something like that. And,
do we have proof
probably
that
still
actually
no one watched.
happened?
I don't know. You might have to go check that one out. All right. Well, I think that's going to do it for NHL Futures Frenzy. Go subscribe to our YouTube, Coolbet Canada. Follow us at Coolbet Canada. Follow all the individuals here. Myself at Jake Bolin Moss, at Coolbet Chris, and at Hustlerama over on Twitter. And stay tuned. We'll be tweeting about the NHL all day tomorrow and into the season as we get going here. I'm excited, guys. I know you're excited. And that'll be all for us. And as always, stay cool.